Hello, and welcome to the W.A.I.T channel. What Am I Thinking? A podcast where two sisters share uplifting conversations on fun and sometimes serious topics.
Join us each week by clicking the notification bell and subscribing to our channel. If you enjoy the show, use the share link. It's one of the best ways to expand the conversation. Hello, and welcome back to the W.A.I.T channel. What am I thinking? Well, I'm thinking it's been a long time since I have been happy to see a Monday. I was so happy when I woke up this morning just to know that the Real Housewives of Potomac three-part reunion was done and done. And quite frankly, like many other reviewers, I don't believe this was three-part worthy. I think they could have got it done in an hour, hour and a half because they didn't give us anything. There were no resolutions, and it was just more of the same shenanigans. What about you, Tracy?
Ditto. I agree with all of that. It did not have to stretch out over three parts. And I am very happy that the season is done, that the reunion is done. And yeah, I'm good with it. Toodles.
I know that like so many other people, content providers, we woke up this morning and there was just a flurry of activity with bloggers giving us announcements and news about firings. And the thing to me that was happier, that made me happy, really was news that I'm quite sure by the time you hear this, you will know about Candace and Chris and the happy news that they are expecting their first baby. And regardless of what anyone says of possibly Candace being given the opportunity to leave the show opposed to being firing, I choose to believe she left because she knew she wanted a happy pregnancy and that she was in a toxic work environment and that it was better for her health and for her fetus to be out of that environment so that she can enjoy her pregnancy.
And it would make sense with her saying taking a break and that she would possibly be back because she wants to have that mommy time and she will come back maybe as a mother. But I would say I don't want you giving them any screen time until another certain person is gone from the show, maybe two.
So let's talk about the people that we have found so far. Um, well, one in which confirmed themselves, so we don't have to say alleged or anything of that nature. Robin Dixon, on her podcast, she announced that she not was leaving, but that she had been fired.
She was not invited back.
And the I didn't listen to the podcast. Some content providers, they recorded it and they played it. And the thing that I found ironic is as she was explaining the events that occurred and how they occurred, she began crying. And in the
No,
background, oh yeah, you can hear Giselle, oh, Robin, you're going to make me cry. I'm thinking, I don't think I've ever seen a tear come from Giselle's eyes. I'm not even sure if they produce tears. But I thought to myself, let me see, you're the reason she got fired.
not the whole part. I mean, she was on her way to being fired after how she handled last season.
Well, let's say season 8 because you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Her and Juan Dixon, her husband, who
The wedding and then the not sharing about their issues with the hotel and all of that stuff.
and I think the paywall for telling the events and things that
That
happen.
didn't help.
I think that that
Correct.
was the icing on the cake. And I almost feel like they just said, let her come back. Let her come back. Make Juan have to do a few. appearances, and then we're going to let her go. I almost feel like that was their final slap in her face. We're going to let you come back because that new business that she was getting ready to start, I'm not sure if they went on with it because the rent was quite a bit for
It
what
was.
she's trying to do. And, you know, I don't know that her husband has a job now or not, but I'm quite certain not having that paycheck, I don't know if she factored that in. If for so many seasons she had been protected by Giselle and Giselle doing her magic with the producers to get her to come back. Maybe she thought, I got one more good season or two more good seasons. I feel that there was some plot behind her coming back and them letting her go.
This is what I think happened. I think they felt like we owe the fans an opportunity to see how this is going to play out, to see how the ladies are going to respond, to see how Juan's going to respond, and to see what she does. And she could, I believe, she could have saved herself. But because she chose to play the victim and act as if Candace did something so horrible to her, and to be playing the I'm gonna invite people on my trip, but yet we are still not gonna be close because as we saw in their first trip, that was her trip, the first one. I can't remember where they went, but when Candace and Wendy ended up in her hotel room, Giselle had left and they were kikiing it up, having a good time. And in her confessional, she goes with the, I don't know how this is happening. I don't know, all of that. But in reality, you were okay with it. Even on a drink, if you are not feeling somebody, you're not feeling them, even if you're drinking.
And
And
I'm sorry. I'm gonna agree with that. I don't like hearing the alcohol card where they were talking even about the bumping vaginas, the
right,
crass
right.
statement that Giselle said. There, I think that if Mia wasn't the liar that Mia is, Wendy could have found her way to actually forgiving her and creating a friendship. But when you don't
Right.
know who you're getting, it's smart to be cautious around that
That's
person.
right. That's right. And I think that Robin did a disservice to herself by aligning herself so closely with Giselle on all things regarding whatever it was. And she didn't stand solid in what I feel could have been her truth. And so I think that's why we have the outcome that we had. I think they were probably leaning towards letting her go, but then they were like, let's see how she handles this. And she failed.
I can go along with that because I was through with Robin seasons ago. I mean, many seasons ago. And I never could understand. I never really watched her segments. I always fast forward. A lot of the bloggers call her regular Robin. And that's pretty much how I felt for her. I didn't feel that she was really bringing anything, and she wasn't really, in my estimation, giving her authentic life. Um,
Yeah, I didn't feel one way or the other. I didn't have a strong positive or negative opinion of her. It was just she's there. And a lot of times it would be she's there to uh, just go along with whatever Giselle is trying to trump up and say and spew, and that's what it was. I've seen her have good moments with some of the other ladies, but a lot of it was superficial of what we got to see on camera. So it was good to know that she and Candace had a big sister, little sister relationship, but obviously it didn't hold water if it could not last through the little dramas that happened. So I'm okay with that. But let's talk about NECA and her one and done.
it's interesting, um the turn of events of her being let go, because just like in my mind, I do believe that Giselle does play somewhat of a part in Robin, because I think Robin, had she not had the negative influence of Giselle, she could have buried the hatchet with some of the women and at least, you know, have those relationships play out. But Aneka, when she came on the show, she did what so many other your one and dones will do. They will look for the popular girls, they'll hitch their wagon to them and think, okay, I'm safe. And that's what she did. She wanted to be with the bandits and do their bidding. You know, you had Ashley bringing her this information, cultural information, and I won't even say the word because apparently in the Nigerian community it's offensive. But you had Ashley bringing it up, and NECA, if it really, in my mind, I'm thinking if it was really that offensive, you're not going to make that your storyline. You're not going to talk about it. You're going to squash it right there at that table with the person bringing it to you, and then it be done. But she
I
didn't.
agree.
But she
She
didn't do
could have
that.
shut, she could have shut Ashley down and say that's an inappropriate conversation for a Nigerian person to have with another Nigerian. So I'm certainly not going to have that conversation with you. She could have shut it down. And one thing I can give her is that she didn't go along with the I'm going to ice. Her and Wendy had their own issue, but she did have Candace back on a couple things.
Absolutely.
And so I can give her that. She was not just the robot saying whatever the girls wanted her to say. But she did have the whole thing with Wendy was poorly handled. And the one thing that she would never really own up to was when Wendy would ask, what did I do to you? Not what you heard I told my mother, my sister, or whomever to do to you, but what do you know from your firsthand experience in dealing with me, other than the crackhead comment, but that came later? What did I do to you? And she could not answer that because Wendy herself, whether she had distance and clean hands because she let others do the work, she had not done anything directly to NECA, and that was NECA's mistake. Don't let these other people bring you stuff. You're just carrying their water, and you should not have done that. And then being messy with the witch and the shrine and all that stuff, all of those things were in poor taste for her culture, let alone for somebody coming on new to the show. So, yeah.
And I was kind of disappointed when we finally did get her description of how they met and Wendy's description. So now we've got them in the same room and they're actually talking about these events. And when you hear it, two people can actually have different points of view of what they think I met you, what that means. And NECA,
Okay, let me stop you 1 second. It
sure.
wasn't I met you, it was I know you.
Thank you. Yes, I know you. Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Which is even deeper than I met
Right.
you.
Exactly.
And
Hard to misconstrue.
absolutely. And I know that Andy Cohen, that he knows the difference between that. And the fact
Correct.
that he did not highlight that, the fact that he just, it was like so many times during this reunion when I've seen him ride somebody and light the fire and take the rope and put it around their neck and just drag them and not let go. It was almost like maybe he took an Ambien and he was just tired.
I think that he was surprised that he could not bring them together because historically he says a few things, he gives a few, lets them do a few concessions, gets some apologies, and he can make some headway. That was not happening at this reunion, and I think that kind of stumped him a little bit that he could not get any of those concessions to be made, and they were very minuscule what he did accomplish. And I was sad that he leaned into the well when production when we say do you know them or have you met them, it can be seen as that. And so I just didn't like the way he handled that because we are all adults and we know the difference between meeting someone and knowing someone or knowing of them even. So it's one of those things where we got to see sort of behind the curtain some more, that which we already kind of knew, that they are the ones putting together once the show is baked. They're the ones adding the ingredients of who they want to add. Instead of going to Wendy and saying, Wendy, we want you to have a person on the show. Give us 5 names of some people that you think would be a good friend to you on the show that we can add. Because that was one of my complaints last season, is that I said Wendy doesn't have a person. Her and Candace are trying to build a friendship. She is trying to have something with Karen, um, but she really didn't have her person. And the same was true for Candace, which is why I was saying they need to try to be each other's, and they did do that this season. But it would have been nice, and I think that's kind of what they tried to do with Kay, but you made her a friend of the show. You did not even allow her to have somebody that could be an actual housewife. So I don't value the way they did that. I think it was a kind of a bit dismissive in the way they did it. Disingenuous, that's what I'll say. It was disingenuous. You tried to act like you were giving Wendy a friend, but in reality, you know, if you bring this person through Ashley, it's messy.
Which, given that explanation, how could anyone expect anything other than what happened to happen?
To happen. Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I, I'm not sad about the 2 departures that we learned about with NECA and Robin. And I'm sad, happy, it's a little bittersweet for Candace. I'm glad that her and Chris are stepping away to start their family, but I will miss her presence on the show. Not in the current state that it's in, though, the way it was for season 8. So I probably am glad, even on another front, if it was going to continue to be a us versus them type situation. So, do you think that with these changes, they can add anybody that would cause you to watch again?
No, no.
Yeah,
I
part of me, until Giselle is no longer there, I don't think I want to, well, I don't want to watch.
Also, and the person that I was listening to someone this morning, and this vlogger made an extremely valid point. And I know for you and I don't think that we check this box, but for this reunion, Ashley actually could have stayed at home with her sons and zoomed in, because she gave nothing. Yet if you think about it, the 2 messes that happened this season had her hands all over it, and she
Agreed.
sat on the end of that sofa saying, I don't take accountability for what other adults do. I can't take accountability for what happened afterwards. I don't own that. It's like, girl, had you not brought that up at the table with NECA, who knows what the season would have been? Had you not bought your friend that has lied on 2 of the husbands of 2 of your castmates in this franchise, you bring her to an event where they're going to be. I don't buy that she was clueless that something could go awry, because she let something loose during the reunion that young lady said she
Yep,
wanted to have a
yep,
talk with Candace. Now,
yep.
if you know your castmate Candace,
Come
even
on now.
if that's the case and that was supposed to happen, she should have called Candace before and said,
Exactly.
this is what my friend wants to do. Would you be willing to have?
Open.
Yes.
Yes.
And if Candace said, no, have your friend come, I just won't come, or Ashley says, you come, because you know you are a part of the cast, and she won't come. That Ashley, I'm sorry, it's time for her to go. She is an
I agree.
she's an instigator. She's a problem.
Yes, I agree. I would add her to the Giselle box. But the other thing about that incident that was frustrating to me that they would not expound upon and they wanted to keep going on the stuff that happened after. When the girl came up to Candace and said, "Do you have anything you want to say to my face?" She used the most powerful word that you can use, and she said, "No." Now, once the girl continued to chatter and stay in her face, that's when she said, "Get the help away from me. Get her away from me." Because she could tell it wasn't going anywhere positive. But she did the right thing. She did not initially engage her. When she asked her, she said no. And they stopped the narrative because they wanted to act as if all of those things were said prior to. And Kay and Wendy said, no, we were not talking about her prior to. It was when she came up, that is when the other stuff happened because she would not go away. So how is that Giselle Ashley? How is that on Candace? Get
More
out of here with that.
more to the point, Mia telling her, "You can't do that. You can't call." When we recall the season before, you had her and Wendy, right? Wendy was using words,
Yeah,
and you
Wendy
become physical.
one had brought that up.
Yeah,
He would bring it up. I'm like, throw that right. I'm like, yeah, you started the whip. You should have went right back at her. But that well, people, you're gonna tell her that just because in that moment you decided not to give her smoke. You're gonna act like that's not in your repertoire because it is, ma'am.
and that's the reason I don't care what they do cast wise. I cannot watch the show. I have never been more triggered, more frustrated by any reality programming than what I have seen on Real Housewives of Potomac. This particular season, the blatant colorism, the way that I remember in previous seasons when Robin was in people their Ashley's face.
Yes,
I remember when she
yes.
was so close in
In the
her face,
restaurant.
and it's like you knew she was spitting in that girl's face while she was yelling at her. Or with the
Yes,
umbrella, her and Monique. The
right. Well,
physical,
Monique has the umbrella.
oh, but still, something happened with them two where
Something
they
happened.
got in
That
each
is
other's
correct.
face. Now, here's the
That is
difference.
correct.
Here's the difference. Ashley is suddenly forgiven. Monique
Yes,
is not.
that's true. And the other thing is that when it comes to these ladies and colorism, it started in season one. But,
One.
but it was Giselle and Robin calling out Katie for herself being biracial. And and when Katie wanted to call them out and say, well, you guys with your green eyes, I think you look, just as white yourselves. And so when Robin wants to sit over there and cry and be like, I've had nobody ever done that. I don't know how to react. It's like you were dishing it out and you received a little in season one. So, ma'am, sit down.
I, I,
That is
th- I,
not the full truth.
I think the water boy probably whispered in her ear, "You better make this reunion count, because I think you on the outs." That's where them tears came
Somebody
for. Because not one tear. That was the worst performance I have ever
ever,
seen in my life.
ever, ever.
Don't
And
ever.
I have to tell you, even though they're minus a check, I don't think Ron Dixon should be happy because he didn't want to be a part of it in the first place. And it's checked a few more negative boxes. Maybe they got their house, so we can say the show paid for the house, either that or her house. I don't know which one, but um, they need to be grateful because even though she didn't decide to walk away, she should have walked away because if you don't want to show the things that, whether it's happening or are happening, you don't need to be on the show. So let's see how they do with this. If it's not something that's still going on, we don't have to talk about it. Let's see how how they handle that for each other with some of the things that have happened postseason now. Let's just see.
Well, I definitely will hearing about it third, fourth, or fifth hand because I will not be listening to that
Okay.
podcast and I will not be paying for no paywall as a
Yeah,
Patreon.
I've never listened and I won't.
Me either. Me either. Me either. Me either. And the last thing that I want to talk about, and we kind of spoke about this a little bit. So it was during the latter part of the third part of the reunion, and you had Giselle and Candace having one of their little banters, going back and forth, and Giselle saying how she can't wait for the people to see this. And Giselle and Candace agreed, I can't wait. And
Yes.
you know I'll let you kind of end with that because it's like I don't think I have never read more. I didn't even know there's actually a website where you can do a petition. I had never heard of this before. And
To
they
get somebody off the show?
I mean just petitions period. and
Oh,
and
okay.
somebody
Okay.
started a petition for her to be
Wow.
fired. And I just
Okay.
click the link to see, is this real? I don't think she realized, I don't think she sees herself.
No, no. And the lens through which she views and sees other people is quite tainted. The one thing that I would say, if you remember the read that Wendy gave her, it was quite harsh, but there was some truth in it. When
And
she talked about her being miserable
yes,
and being, I believe her joy comes through her daughters, but for herself, and it's probably even bittersweet as they get older and are moving on, because if she doesn't have the self love that she truly needs and know how to be, I think she thinks she knows how to be not be in a relationship just because she hasn't been in a healthy one. And being alone and being lonely are two different things. And I think there's so much damage that was done by Jamal. And I feel she thinks she has moved past it because of time. But in reality, I think you have a very wounded individual with that could probably benefit from being on somebody's couch. I'm not going to say medication might not be needed as well, but she needs to be able to truly see who she is and to see how other people truly see her because her lens is pretty tainted. It's not clear.
I you're being real nice.
Well,
You're being real.
that may be the clinician in.
You are giving her grace, and I can appreciate that. But I really feel that on top of whatever trauma she experienced in relationships, I think Giselle also has a personality disorder. When you have your own daughters pointing out that you are not available emotionally. And, I look at my own children and that journey, and when I hear them, and one of the things that is said is about me being there or me being present. Perhaps not those exact words, but that's what they're meaning. And to have daughters, no less, say that about you. And then the way she sat and she received that information, she didn't even cry. If my boys were to say that to me, I don't think I would have been able to hold back the tears that they felt that way about me. She didn't even cry.
Yeah. 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 I remember that. And I was pretty kind of awestruck by the fact that they were honest enough to tell her that and to say, I mean, I think from their perspective, what it took while filming to say that to your mother, that's a lot. And so for her to, and even when she had the moment with the daughter who felt like um, basically like she wasn't seen by her, and she had to kind of carve out special time for her, and I think it's because she takes a lot of the oxygen out of the room in the way she carries herself. And I believe that she doesn't know how to emote. And she probably has numbed her feelings in a lot of ways, but you would hope that does not extend to your children. Not that there's not love, but you still have to be emotionally present and let them know that it's okay to show those emotions.
And for that reason, when you're dealing with a person like that and you're talking about a reality show, you're talking about interaction with other people, possibly even their children, that on top of a number of other things on a long list that I have for Giselle, I think she needs to leave. I know that the producers probably don't want to push that strong of a reset. Um, like you said, I think Karen and Giselle are seen as anchors. I don't see them letting her go. Ashley,
I wonder what her Q rating is now.
I don't know because you can I like I said, I've been triggered, and not just for what I've seen, but also some of the comments that her fans are saying and how they just refuse to see a thing for what that thing is. You can still like somebody, but then just be honest about what you are actually seeing.
True, true, very true. Very true. But I think there's just been several boxes that have been checked for me that just concludes for me to check out. Colorism is one. The whole icing people out. The just so many things. And so I like you. Whether I'm like Candace, just taking a break, or if I'm done for good, I don't know. But I definitely will not be tuning in this season, as there is another one that's coming back that I'm not tuning into because it's just too negative. And that's New Jersey. I'm not watching this season.
Oh no.
I'm just not.
I checked out of that one
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah, from the things I've seen in the press and just even from the commercials that are airing now, it's like, nope, I don't need that in my space right now. So, it's supposed to be a happy way, a little escapism. And with the way some of these narratives are going, if it's not doing that, if it's not bringing more laughs and smiles to me, causing more frustration and angst, then I'm done for now. So that's where we are when it comes to the Real Housewives of Potomac, and for us, a few others. But tell us where you are. Did you feel it was a 3-part reunion worthy episodes? Are you happy for who's exiting? Do you feel like there needs to be a few more exits? Do you even care? Are you checked out to the point where it doesn't matter? Or are you on the bus of Giselle can do no wrong? Let us know. Make a comment and make sure you come back to hear what we are thinking.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely ours and should be taken as such. Our thoughts are intended purely for entertainment purposes. Please do not take anything we say as fact or advice. Thank you for listening.